As a beautiful young woman of pure heart, Maleficent, Angelina Jolie, has an idyllic life in a forest kingdom. When an invading army threatens the land, Maleficent rises up to become its fiercest protector. However, a terrible betrayal hardens her heart and twists her into a creature bent on revenge. She engages in an epic battle with the invading king's successor, then curses his newborn daughter, Aurora, realizing only later that the child holds the key to peace in the kingdom. Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring another movie review. This time we'll be talking about Maleficent, which came out back in 2014, and of course stars Angelina Jolie as the title character, along with Ellie Fanning as Princess Aurora, and Sam Riley, Juno Temple, and Imelda Staunton. So yeah, Maleficent. I just bought the Blu-ray actually. I'm a few years too late on this one. But I've actually been meaning to see it for quite some time. I remember seeing the trailers back in 2014 actually, and I said, that actually looks kind of good. But, those were when my sort of tastes and genres were a little bit less, broad than they are now. Of course, my favorite genre is horror, and I, love action films. I love, comedy. So I'm not very picky anymore. If it's a good film, it's a good film. I've just never been one that's, loved, Disney movies. I watched some when I was a kid. I surely like some of them. I'm not denying that. It was never like my main, source of, joy, I guess. But again, since my horizons have broadened, I've been more curious about films like that. I liked the recent live-action Beauty and the Beast with, Luke Evans and everything, hence the shirt, even though it's from the animated film, but, Luke Evans is, everything. And so I wanted to check this out, mostly because it sort of dips into, genre I like. It's sort of like a dark fantasy, drama, action, adventure, I suppose, with, a little of that mixed in there. And the character herself, Maleficent, she has this darkness around her that, sort of branches out past, like, a stereotypical, like, fairy tale story and such. Again, making it sort of that dark fairy tale, dark fantasy type of film. And Angelina Jolie, I know this was a project she was actually pretty eager about. She was attached to it ever since they were planning on making the film, which I think was 2010 or before. She had really liked the animated character as a child and always wondered more about her and everything. And I remember reading the movie probably wouldn't have been made if she wasn't so attached to it as she was. And I always liked Angelina Jolie. I've always thought she's a very good actress. I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith quite a few times when I was younger. I've recently just taken a look back at her Tomb Raider movies, which I'll mix into a video at some point down the road, not too far from now. There's definitely more of hers I gotta watch, but I've always thought well of her. And she is just, pitch perfect as Maleficent. And now, like the story says, she starts out, she starts out as a pretty idyllic, sort of hopeful type of person. And of course, she still is what she is. She's a fairy, but she has like potential for evil deeds and such. And that sort of happens when someone who she thought could have been the love of her life. Also, pretty good young actress to play Angelina Jolie actually. Just with their cheekbones and everything, you can sort of see this girl growing into Angelina Jolie potentially. I think. There's a deep portrayal. It's sort of ends up souring her for the rest of her life. And so when she grows up, if that happens, she loses her wings because of it. And in a very traumatizing fashion. Angelina Jolie really sold that scene. Because her heart hardened, she is, she becomes cold, sort of more calculated on revenge than anything, and she becomes, or almost becomes, that villainess that we know from the animated films, the animated Disney classic. But it's really a different version of the character. It's really a more in-depth perspective on what a kind of character could be. Angelina Jolie isn't just playing like a, mustache twirling villain, so to say, and everything like that. I think it's a more, emotional, sort of in-depth human look at what a character could really be going through, and I really like the spin on it. To me, that's more interesting than Angelina Jolie just being like this evil witch or something straight up. I think they did a good job, sort of remolding it into, a story of betrayal, yes, tragedy, yes, but also redemption, sort of, forgiveness and things like that. They sound like, cheesy themes, and, the movie still is very much a Disney film. It still has, it's very accessible for a family, I think, but, it has some meaningful context to it, and there definitely is darker edge to it with just how good Angelina Jolie is in the role, and how she portrays Maleficent's sort of darker impulses, during certain points in the film. She is absolutely magnetic. She is absolutely wonderful as Maleficent. I really loved Angelina Jolie a lot. This is probably my favorite role of hers at this point. She just stole every scene. She is so magnetic. Even critics that were criticizing the film at the time, they said Angelina Jolie is just so good when she's on screen in this movie. And then you have Ellie Fanning as Aurora, who I liked. She was charming. She had the innocence about her. She had a smile that stands out and everything. I don't think she's as stand out in her role as Angelina Jolie was, but she probably really wasn't supposed to be either. I don't know how true this is, but I read on IMDb that Anya Taylor-Joy auditioned to play Aurora, but I think it would have been so excellent, because she's done some very standout work over the past few years. That would have made me love this film even more, but I think Ellie Fanning did a pretty nice job with it. You also had Sam Riley as sort of Maleficent's companion, usually a crow, but she can pretty much turn into anything she wants, from a wolf to a dragon. Maleficent herself doesn't turn into a dragon in this movie, which I know some people are pissed off about, but I didn't think she really needed it. Having a dragon as like an accessory to the character, I think still can work, and Angelina Jolie still does a good job with that rage of hers without having to turn into it herself. And then you had Brendan Thwaites as Philip, who is currently in DC Universe's Titans now. And he's fine. He doesn't really have a big role. He's not really in it until like the last couple quarters or so of the movie. But he's fine. And then the actor who played the grown-up Stefan, I thought he did a pretty good job. He sort of had a limited role as well, but you see a lot of paranoia and increased sort of just obsession that I think he did a good job with. And there are some bits of humor I actually think work quite well. A lot of times because of again, Angelina Jolie, but it just played off pretty well. When she's tormenting the fairies, are supposed to be keeping Aurora in hiding, and just various little things like when little Aurora is gonna walk over the cliff and she ends up saving her and stuff like that. Or just like different little irritations or like social interactions with Maleficent are quite fun in this movie as well. Also, there's just a really nice and just sort of endearing sweetness in this movie when Maleficent really starts to connect and bond with and care for Aurora. Angelina Jolie just sells that really well with her subtle facial expressions and her emotional flickers. And just the music that sort of goes just in the background with moments like that. It got me in the feels, really, and that really just started to make the movie for me, and I really loved that bond that developed. And again, Angelina Jolie, just perfection. Physically, she looked incredible in the role, and I gotta say, I really enjoy this movie. I mean, I was anticipating liking it because I've always been curious about it. I hate that it's taken me 5 years to finally watch it. But I'm glad I finally did, and I was pleasantly surprised. I honestly have a good amount of love for this movie now, and I do kind of want to watch it again. I almost really can't get enough of Angelina Jolie's portrayal of Maleficent, and I'm very pleased that we're getting a sequel this year, coming out in October, Mistress of Evil. I'm planning on seeing that in theaters now. So yeah, it's a Disney movie. It's a mostly family-friendly movie, but I think if you can appreciate great performances like Angelina Jolie's and sort of be drawn in by the darkness and sort of theme of her character, I think there's something more than one type of audience can enjoy with this. And I also did like the score. I thought that the score was pretty good. And really with that, especially the end credits sequence, actually. I know Angelina Jolie actually handpicked who sang that. And I guess Angelina Jolie also scared a lot of kids when she was in costume, except her own daughter, who played a young Aurora, because she knew it was her mom and everything, but still kind of funny. So yeah, I'm actually rating this film pretty highly, a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. I'm giving it an A, or about a 91 or 93%. Yes, I really like Maleficent. I'm very, very pleasantly surprised and happy to have it now. Definitely anticipating the sequel. And so overall, I just loved it. Let me know what you guys thought about Maleficent. How do you think it compares to some of the other live-action type of Disney movies we've had, and different animation to live-action films in general. Also, visually, this movie is, I don't know why I didn't talk about that already, but visually the movie is pretty gorgeous. I mean, there are times, like, during certain flying scenes where you can tell it's like a CG backdrop and such. It's not spot on 100% of the time, but visually the coloring they mix in, it's, I think, a good middle ground between, just fairy tale land and a little bit of, realistic lighting and colors, I guess, which is how they meant to film it, so I think they're successful with that as well. So yeah, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.